Hello and welcome to this channel. I basically wanted to kick off my first video with looking at the newly announced Hot Toys 2020 Toy Fair exclusives. There were 4 figures released, obviously being the SpiderMan 2099 Black Suit, the Thor Ragnarok Stanley, the Mark IV holographic version, and Whiplash. And I wanted to kick off by looking at Thor Ragnarok Stanley. Now, this is a pretty basic figure in terms of tailoring and sort of everything it comes with, the kind of definition of a Toy Fair exclusive in my opinion. Obviously it doesn't really come with much, and we don't really know the prices for these at the minute, but you're going to look at somewhere in the region of probably about 250 maybe, maybe a bit higher when he first releases. But there's nothing really going for this figure in my opinion. I personally don't plan to pick him up, and I don't think this figure has a very bright future when we look at the past Stanley figure being last year's 2019 Toy Fair exclusive, which was the Guardians of the Galaxy version. To me, that was a much more desirable figure compared to this one. This one's a very explicit cameo. That last one was one you could kind of fudge into more displays, I feel, with being in the spacesuit, but this one, I don't know. It doesn't do very much for me, especially with the chair on his back. He obviously comes with this haircut device and Thor's hair, a closed up version. Yeah, it's a nice line addition to the Ragnarok lineup. It's nice to see they're not finished with that lineup as well, so hopefully we actually get some more figures from that line, but for now this is it. It's got some nice weathering around him, but it's a pretty basic figure overall. And as I say, not one I plan to pick up, and one that I think is going to sit around for a little while. To me, the head sculpt looks pretty much the same, except the mouth is obviously a little bit different, and you have his different glasses to last time, but other than that, I think the head sculpt is pretty much identical. So, moving on, here we have the SpiderMan 2099 suit, and this was a figure lots of people were hoping to see for quite a long time. The suit looks really nice. For me personally, I don't particularly I'm not a huge fan of the suit. I've played the game fully, so I've played with pretty much all of the suits, and the 2099 wasn't one I particularly played a lot of. On top of that, I think the figure looks very restricted in the articulation. If I go back to this pose, normally they'll push figures to the extreme in order to get the nice poses out of them, but this figure is in a very static pose, even for a dynamic pose such as this, which to me indicates that it's not going to be able to pose very well. So it's either a similar material to the advanced suit, or to me it looks different in these arm sections where this harder plastic connects over the fabric. So I'm imagining that articulation was going to be very, very hindered on this suit, but also especially in this ab area with the spider crunch over the spider logo. I think that looks very I wouldn't want to keep that posed, so it's obviously going to crease over time, so you're not going to be able to get these quote unquote dynamic poses out of him. But I know for a lot of people this is a suit that they really love, and I think obviously if you like it you should get it, because last year we got the Scarlet Spider, which I never actually picked up. The only Spider-Man figure I've picked up so far is the advanced suit, and I think that's a great figure. But if you do enjoy if you're obviously collecting the whole suit lineup from the game, you obviously need this suit as well. And I think it'd look great next to all the others that have come out so far, but for me personally, I'm probably going to skip on it. It's obviously going to be moderately expensive. Probably you're going to be looking at around the 300 mark, which is what the Scarlet Spider came out as last year. So yeah, obviously get the toe articulation, which is always nice, which they are introducing now. I'd be very cautious of these plastic fins. I think that they look extremely fragile to me, and if you clip them, they are definitely going to break off. But you are getting a couple of different hands with the sort of claw type nails on the end of him. So I only just noticed that. I find that funny that they have a bent leg as one of the selling shots. That's just funny to me. You get this hand, which I haven't seen in a while. Oh, not actually seen before in a Spider-Man figure. But you also get the pointing hand, which I think is hilarious if you ever wanted to recreate that Spider-Man meme. I like the look of him, but for me, it's a pass. Now, this was one of the more interesting releases, I thought, being a reissue of the Whiplash Suit from Iron Man 2, the Mark 1. At the moment, this figure has obviously dropped a little bit in price with this new announcement being a reissue, but for a while the version 1.0 was relatively expensive and kind of difficult to pick up, whereas obviously released about 10 years ago now, and there were obviously fewer collectors back then. I don't know what to think of this figure. I like the look of it, but it has very limited display options. You can only display it really realistically with the Mark 5, which I have, so it would look quite nice in a pose like this. But obviously any issues that the original figure had, this is going to have, and the head sculpt still looks nice. I'm never a huge fan of this expression, to be honest. I'm not sure why, but it didn't resonate with me. But you're obviously getting updated paint. I hope they update the paintwork on the body, the tattoos and that would look nice. It's obviously a shame that the licensing issues prohibit them from using the orange jumpsuit in the film. So those are still brown, which I think it would really pop if they were orange. Yeah, I think obviously it's going to be around the same mark as the 2099, so you're going to be looking at paying about, I think, $280 for this once it actually gets into shops. But if you missed out on the first one, this is a great opportunity to pick it up. But again, for me, it's just not resonating with me very much. I think they should be more focusing on newer figures rather than re-releasing a figure from yonks ago that people are still looking for, but I think people would rather see new figures be produced compared to a figure that's in a 10-year-old film, a film that not many people really particularly enjoyed, and a villain that is, for the most part, quite forgettable. If they re-release someone like, I don't know, say they re-released Ironmonger, I think a lot of people would be more interested in that. I'm not saying they would, because that's a massive figure, and I don't think they would ever do that, but I think a lot more people would prefer, the point I'm trying to make is more people would prefer something like that compared to Whiplash. So for me, this is a pass. It's definitely not a necessity. The Mark V looks fantastic on its own anyway. So the final figure is this, which is certainly an interesting one. The Mark IV holographic. I have the diecast Mark IV, so I have kind of a bit of reference for this figure, and to me this doesn't look the best, as it doesn't with a lot of people. It will be quite expensive, a bit like the Neon Tech Iron Men were, but those figures aren't selling all that great. They've come down a lot in price compared to what they originally cost, especially the 2.0. The 2.0 you can pick up for obscenely cheap, but I think where this figure mainly falls is the fact that a lot of these pieces aren't fully holographic. You can see the shoulder pads, the pads for the missiles, the arms. I'm pretty sure a lot of these rocket ones are also non-translucent. So it's going to be a weird mishmash of strange panel colours that don't mix. I think the yellow looks nice. I really like the helmet. That'd be a really nice piece on its own, I think. because you can see the detail underneath. But for me, this is, again, quite an easy pass. You're obviously not getting any of the die cast because it's the legs mainly, and other pieces in the figure that would otherwise be metal. Sort of almost a bit like how these shoulder pads would be painted, but perhaps they thought it looked too strange having all this metal in the legs. I don't know. People have pointed out it looks like a McDonald's toy, and I've come to agree with them. This doesn't have very much going for it. For reference, as I say, the Neon Tech hasn't performed well at all. I don't think this will. If you want a Mark IV, I'd say go for the original. It's going to be a lot better than this one, and you're still going to be able to recuperate a lot of your money compared to what this one will cost. So, yeah, that's pretty much my wrap up on the 2020 Toy Fair exclusives. I hope you enjoyed this little commentary, and I shall see everyone next time.